The Assembly is now in session. Assemblymember Gordon notices the absence of a quorum. The Sergeant at Arms will prepare the chamber and bring in the absent members. The clerk will call the roll.
Ashajian, Alejo.
How was that? Oh, was that right? I didn't realize.
Baker, Bigelow, Bloom, Bonilla, Bonta, Bro, Brown, Burke, Calderon, Campos, Chang, Chow, Chavez, David Chu, Canson Chu, Cooley, Cooper, DeBobne, Daly, Daly, Dodd, Eggman, Frazier, Gaines, Gallagher, Christina Garcia, Eduardo Garcia, Gatto, Gibson, Gomez, Gonzalez, Gordon, Gray, Grove, Hadley, Harper, Hernandez, Holden, Irwin, Jones, Jones Sawyer, Kim, Lackey, Levine, Linder, Lopez, Lowe, Mainshine, Mathis, Mays, McCarty, Medina, Melendez, Mullen, Nazarian, Obernolte, O'Donnell, Olson, Patterson, Quirk, Ridley Thomas, Rodriguez, Salas, Santiago, Steinorth, Stone, Thurman, Ting, Wagner, Waldron, Weber, Wilk, Williams, Wood. Mr. Speaker.
A quorum is present. We ask our guests and visitors in the rear of the chamber and in the gallery to please stand for the prayer. The afternoon's prayer will be offered by Assembly Chaplain Father Constantine Papadimos.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon. Let us pray. Lord, you have shown us that relationships prosper with love. The best help for any relationship, husband and wife, parents and children, friends with friends, the thing that makes them stronger is love, not fairness or quality time, love. Our relationships prosper when we do things for others without expecting anything in return. Lord, grant that we love one another as you have loved us. Amen.
We ask our guests and visitors to remain standing and join us for the flag salute. We ask you to join Assemblymember Wagner as he leads us in the pledge. Mr. Wagner.
Thank you. Join me in the pledge to the symbol of the greatest country on the planet. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Reading of the previous day's journal.
Assembly Chamber, Sacramento, Wednesday, March 2nd, 2016. The Assembly met at 7 a.m. Honorable Rudy Salas, Jr., Assembly Member, 32nd District presiding. Chief Clerk E. Dotson Wilson at the desk. Reading Clerk Kathleen M. Lewis reading. The following were placed upon the morning roll call. Ashajian, Allen, Baker,
anytime?
Bigelow, Bloom, Bonilla, Bro.
Assemblymember Mullen moves and Mr. Mays seconds that the reading of the previous day's journal be dispensed with. Presentations of petitions, there are none. Introduction and references of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed and read and amended, and amendments deemed adopted. Messages from the governor, there are none. Messages from the Senate, there are none. Motions and resolutions. Absences. The absences for the day will be deemed read and printed in the journal. If you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phone at this time. Without objection, we will suspend Rule 118 to allow guests and photographers on the floor in the gallery and at the rostrum for the State of the Judiciary address. We will recess the regular session and convene the joint convention. The Chief Justice and Associate Justices are in the chamber. I am appointing a joint committee on escort to greet the Chief Justice and the Associate Justices. The escorts should retire to the rear of the chamber. Assemblymembers Stone, Quirk, Jones Sawyer, Wagner, Melendez, and Gallagher. Senators Jackson, Hertzberg, Bates, and Huff. Please bring the Chief Justice and the Associate Justices to the rostrum. You may be seated. Please welcome the family of Chief Justice Kantil Sakauwe. Her husband, Mark Sakauwe. her daughter Hannah, and her extended family. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge and welcome the Secretary of State, the Honorable Alex Padilla. We also welcome the other elected officials and guests from the legal community and the Judicial Council. At this point, I'd like to introduce the President Pro Tem of the Senate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker Rendon, and once again, congratulations on an incredible historic day yesterday. Let's give it up for our Speaker, Anthony Rendon. Good afternoon, colleagues, and welcome to our distinguished guests, our friends, as well as family. I'd like to acknowledge and welcome the elected officials present today and the representatives of the legal community, including the State Bar as well as the Judicial Council. Now, as policymakers on both sides of the aisle as well as both sides of the chamber under this Capitol dome, it is our role to make laws in the state of California. Therefore, the administration of justice and the interpretation of the laws are indispensable to our democratic system. Without a fully functioning and independent judiciary, we cannot guarantee the rights enshrined in the Constitution of the great state of California and the Constitution of the greatest nation on earth, the United States of America. The judicial branch is our safeguard against radicalism, tyranny, and the oppression of minorities, and thus is vital to the freedoms and values that we all hold dearly. We are very fortunate, incredibly fortunate, to have a high court that not only includes the best and brightest legal minds in the nation, but also mirrors the tremendous diversity of our great state. It is with great pleasure for me to introduce California Supreme Court justices as we consider our state of the third branch of government. With us today, colleagues, Associate Justice Catherine Werdiger. Ms. Catherine Werdiger. Associate Justice Ming Chin. Associate Justice Ming Chin. Associate Justice Carolyn Corrigan. Carolyn Corrigan. And Mariano Florentino Cuellar. And last but not least, colleagues, our Chief Justice Tani Cantil Sakauye. Chief Justice Cantil Sakauye is the first Asian American, the first Filipina American, and only the second woman to serve as Chief Justice of the great Supreme Court of the state of California. So without further ado, I give you the Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court. If we're going to do a friendly amendment or an addendum to that right there, let's get up for Associate Justice Gordon Liu. Gordon Liu. Goodwin Liu.
Well, good afternoon. Speaker Rendon, let me add my congratulations to your historic speakership. And of course, Senate President De Leon, thank you for inviting me to address a joint session of the legislature on the state of the judiciary. I'm honored to be here with my fellow justices from the California Supreme Court. It's a pleasure to see my colleagues from the Courts of Appeal, the Superior Courts, and the Judicial Council. And I'm happy to see the attorneys from the State Bar, the Bench Bar Coalition and the Open Courts Coalition, executives from the Judicial Council, my chamber staff, and my externs. And once again, I must acknowledge my supportive husband who brought one of our daughters here today, Claire, as well as the rest of my family who are here in support. Let me also say that I am particularly pleased that my 84-year-old mother is here tonight. Now, Mom? Thank you. Well, and here's why. I grew up in a home in an alley not too far from the Capitol, and my brothers and sister and cousins and I would come to the Capitol all the time, but we were actually too afraid to actually come in. So we spent a lot of time on the lawn with the squirrels. That was until redevelopment came along and took our family home and took our grandmothers home. And my mother, Mary, with her high school education, went to court to fight the action as a self-represented litigant. She lost, of course, but worse than that, she felt totally disrespected by the system. And that was my path to the law. So here we are today, many, many decades later, and I'm in my 6th year as Chief Justice and halfway through my first term. I am very proud to speak to you today on International Women's Day, which is a day about gender equality and equal pay. And I'm also proud to talk to you about the judicial branch and how, with the aid of the legislative and executive branches, we promote the social good and public well-being through our duties in the Constitution and through our relationships built on civility and respect. The California judiciary is unique, not only because of its tremendous size and the 7.5 million cases that are filed annually in it, but also because we serve the most diverse population in the United States, if not the world. The judiciary upholds the rule of law in every one of those 7.5 million cases, and we interpret and apply the law and also ensure that it's available and applicable to all. And we do that through our 3 courts. Through the 58 superior courts with 1,800 judges, through the 6 courts of appeal with 105 justices, through the Supreme Court with 7 justices. And we are guided by a constitutional body called the Judicial Council. The Judicial Council is our rulemaking and policymaking body of the judicial branch, and by virtue of the Constitution, I have many roles, including chairing the Judicial Council. The Judicial Council itself has many goals, but we share one with you, and that is we serve the people of California. We not only serve the same people, the Judicial Council has many structural similarities with the legislature. Our membership on council consists of justices and judges, court professionals, lawyers appointed by the state bar, and also 2 members of the legislature, 1 from each house, appointed by your leaders. And like you, Judicial Council members serve on committees. We also have over 30-plus advisory committees with more than 400 jurists, lawyers, subject matter experts, and justice stakeholders who contribute and volunteer their time and expertise to access to justice. And when I say volunteer, I mean it, because every council member and every committee member has a robust day job. So I truly thank them for their work in access to justice. Now, although the judicial branch has been around since statehood and the Judicial Council has been around since 1926, this structure that I just described to you is only 17 years young. It's what I call Judicial Branch 1.0. And professionally speaking, I and many of us on the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal grew up during Judicial Branch 1.0. It was a time where we lived. I was 14 years as a Superior Court judge here in Sacramento, through the most turbulent times of unification and state court funding revolution and evolution. Now, those are polite words to describe a bitter battle that raged between courts and judges over these changes. Now, of course, without email and social media back then, few can attest to the heat of those days, but some of us can. And let me also say that change has been difficult. It can be contentious. But if it's for the public good, then it's necessary and it's right. Let me say also that in the meantime, we have transitioned into what I call the judicial branch of today. I call it Judicial Branch 2.0. We are a branch now made leaner by the greatest recession in California's history. We've endured and we've changed for the better. We have publicly met the heat of unprecedented budget cuts, and we have downsized in all levels of the judiciary with these goals in mind, to serve the people and to ensure justice and fairness. And we've focused on these goals of self-assessment, transparency, accountability, and re-engineering. And I give you an example of re-engineering. 2 years ago, in the 58 superior courts, we had more than 40-plus old case management systems. Now, these case management systems couldn't communicate in their own court, let alone with each other. But thanks to reinvestment dollars by you and the governor, we now have only a handful of case management systems, and over 40 courts are in the process of updating their old computer systems. And what we know is, from this trend toward more uniformity and use of the same computer management systems, case management systems, we will see more efficiency, better access, and usable data upon which we can make smart choices going forward for the public. Now, we've re-engineered, but we've also adapted, we've also reformed, and we've never relinquished our commitment to access, fairness, and diversity. I'm proud to say in the most trying of economic times that we have done several things. We have increased collaborative courts. We've created a comprehensive language access plan, and thanks to my colleague Justice Tino Cuellar, we are actually implementing it. We have created an open meetings rule for Judicial Council. We have created a new traffic rule, more responsive to the needs of the people. And borrowing a page from your playbook, we now live web stream our Judicial Council meetings. And I'm excited to say that soon we will live stream our oral arguments at the Supreme Court. We are enthusiastic about the governor's proposal for an innovation grant fund in the Judicial Council because I believe that it will energize courts to do even more by expanding proven programs or creating new programs to improve access to justice. We still have much work to do in Judicial Branch 2.0. It will take the work of all of us together in the three branches to resolve those issues, but I'd like to highlight 4 areas that I think will occupy us for some time in the future. And the first is fines and fees. We have a system of fines and fees that have morphed from a system of accountability to a system that raises revenue for essential government services. For example, we raised approximately $1.7 billion in fines, fees, and assessments. More than 60% of that money goes to fund programs and services at the local and state level. The rest goes to the court system. Now, this is an inequity when we have taken a fine, fees, and assessment accountability system and turned it into a revenue-generating system for government services. But we have made progress with the 3 branches of government. Last year, you passed a traffic amnesty bill, and we are now restoring licenses to thousands of Californians. We also at Judicial Council swiftly passed what is a traffic rule that now allows those who have moving violations to appear in court without having to pay bail first. We still have much to do for fines, fees, and assessments, but this is a start. I also want to talk about bail. I think it's time for us to really ask the question whether or not bail effectively serves its purpose, or does it in fact penalize the poor? Bail, does it really ensure public safety? Does it in fact assure people's appearance in court? Or would a more effective risk assessment tool be as effective for some cases? The good news is that all 3 branches have already begun work in this area. 2 years ago, you gave the Judicial Council funds, and we created, administered, and led 12 court pretrial release programs, and we've seen improvements in those waiting for trial. There are interesting studies, and the takeaways from these studies are that in some cases, pretrial detention actually increases recidivism, and in other types of offenders, we found that supervised release is actually as effective as money bail. So those takeaways are worth studying. And we need to create, like other states, more pretrial release programs because we must not penalize the poor for being poor. I want to say how proud I am that last month I was able to name our administrative director, Martin Hoshino, to be the California representative on the National Task Force studying fines, fees, and bail. Martin will share the good work that's done here in California nationally, and he'll bring back ideas from other states that are proven that can be shared and used here in California. Another area of concern I want to raise is what I call our court children. We have approximately 80,000 children in the court system, and the need to adequately fund dependency counsel for this most vulnerable group of people cannot be overstated, and we are in dire need. We have over 155,000 children and families in the court system, and they need specially trained attorneys. And let me say that we understand the estimate for dependency counsel's caseload is 225 people per caseload. That can't be fair to children, to families, to the attorneys, and to the judges who oversee these matters. The next area I want to highlight is what's called implicit bias. Certainly, implicit bias is a factor in the national discussion about race and justice. Scientists tell us that unconscious stereotypes affect beliefs, attitudes, and actions, and that implicit bias has been found in children as young as 6 years of age. But the good news is that these attitudes are malleable and changeable, and that's where education or implicit bias education and training comes in. A few months ago, I joined a national board for community engagement in the courts. The task of this board is to develop effective tools and resources so court leaders are able to reach out and engage marginalized and disenfranchised communities and to ensure access to justice for those who need it most. Well, I'm proud to say that one of the tools recommended by this national task, this advisory board, is in fact implicit bias education and training. And California, in our judicial branch, we are ahead of that curve because we already teach implicit bias education and training to all judges in our ethics training. Now, we have much to do in Judicial Branch 2.0, but I know and you know that as leaders, we must always look to the future. We must plan to be fair ahead of time in an uncertain future, and that's why I created the Futures Commission. The Futures Commission is a commission looking to prepare us for an uncertain future, but to make sure that we're aware of what we're walking into. And so that's why I asked my colleague, Justice Carol Corrigan, to chair, and Justice Bill McGinnis to co-chair the Futures Commission. And right now, they are gathering public input on ideas that are new and not so new about how to serve that future generation, how to meet the demand of the rising need and number of self-represented litigants, to assist children and families, to create capacity in our court system for civil rights litigation, and the list goes on and on. Justice Corrigan recently said at a public meeting that we know that change is hard and it can be scary, especially when you're in the middle of it. And this reference to the understandable fear that comes with change, especially bold change, was addressed by 3 leaders at a national conference of state chief justices we recently held in California last month. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy, a Sacramento native and, like me, a proud alum of McClatchy High School, spoke to us. Also, Mr. Leon Panetta, who has served in prominent roles in the Obama and Clinton administration, former congressman, spoke to us about leadership. And Mr. Panetta said that leadership by crisis is no way to run a country or deal with the world. He said if you're going to lead, you have to take risks. We also had Brian Stevenson. He's head of the Equal Justice Initiative. He's a criminal defense attorney, and he's the author of the book Just Mercy. In his book, he wrote that the true measure of our commitment to justice, fairness, the rule of law, equality, cannot be measured by how we treat the rich, the powerful, the privileged, the respected amongst us. He said the true measure of our commitment to justice is how we treat the poor, the disfavored, the accused, the incarcerated, and the condemned. At our conference, he said that justice prevails when people do uncomfortable things. Well, right now, the Futures Commission is talking about uncomfortable things, but they're doing so in order to be ahead of the crisis and to be prepared to lead. I thank them for their work. Now, in the end, I want to say a few remarks about the importance of teaching and modeling civics. I believe our sense of justice and our sense of fairness, frankly, comes from our understanding of how our government works, why it works, and what it does for us. and also because there's a belief that justice is in fact for all of us. I still remember my last day in that house in the alley, and what I remember are the feelings of tension and fear about being ordered to move by a faceless government. And I have seen that same bewilderment in the eyes of many people who've come to court, both represented and unrepresented. That same look and that same feeling as my mother must have had 60 years ago when she went to court over our house. And that's why I've spent my spare time as a trial judge, appellate justice, and Supreme Court justice talking to children and to adults about how our government works, why I work for them and with them, and their future role in it. I will say to you that when I became Chief Justice in 2011, I finally had the opportunity to work with like-minded jurists and lawyers and teachers and school administrators and also government leaders like our Secretary of State, Mr. Padilla, on civics, on raising the awareness of civics, on teaching it to a future generation so that they may take our place. And thanks to these people and this group, we have significantly raised the awareness about civic engagement, civic education, voting, representative government, and a fair and impartial jury. After all, I do believe that our public's faith in our democratic institutions depends on their understanding and awareness of those institutions. Justice Kennedy said that democracy must be learned in each generation. It has to be taught. And so we are committed to civics. I believe our commitment to civics is a reflection of our commitment to a functioning democracy and the fairness and justice that springs from that. So this year, as we go ahead and talk about trying to make our system more fair and more prepared in the future, let us be guided by fairness and justice, not only to each other, but to the people who appear in court today and tomorrow. And let us together deliver on the promise of justice and fairness. Thank you.
A reminder that members are invited to personally meet and greet the Chief Justice, the Associate Justices, and judicial branch leaders at a reception at the Stanley Mosk Library and Courts Building that will begin immediately upon adjournment of session. Without objection, the Chief Justice's remarks shall be printed as a separate appendix to the Assembly Journal. The Joint Convention is adjourned sine die. We are back in regular session. The session schedule is as follows: Wednesday, March 9th, check-in session. Thursday, March 10th, floor session at 9 a.m. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions shall be continued. I am ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Ridley Thomas moves. Mr. May seconds. That this House stands adjourned until Thursday, March 10th at 9 a.m. Quorum call is lifted.